const and the what is it? Read only. So we'll be learning like what const variable and what is it? Read only variable in C# and how they are differ to each other. So what I'm saying, the const and read only are very useful keywords, right? Are two very useful keywords in C#, and also creates a little confusion to understand, and also creates a little what is it, confusion to understand. So we'll be discussing about this. So let us understand about what is it, these two special keyword, these two very useful keywords. The name is const and what is it, read only. Now I will tell you according to Microsoft statement, according to MSDN, Microsoft Development Network statement. Here, according to Microsoft, constants are immutable values. That are known at the compile, that are known at the time of program compilation, or that are known at the time of compilation time. So that are known at the time of program compilation. That are known at the time of what is it, program compilation, and do not change, and do not change their values for the lifetime of the program. So according to Microsoft, constants are immutable values that are known at compilation time and do not change their values for the lifetime of the what is it, program. Whereas the read only variables are also immutable values, but these values are known at you know what time, runtime, and also do not change their values for the lifetime of the program. For the lifetime of the program. So according to Microsoft, constants are immutable values that are known at the time of program compilation and do not change their values for the lifetime of the program. Read-only variables are also immutable values, but these values are known at what time? Runtime, and also do not change their values for the lifetime of the program. So as per this statement, what difference we are finding? All are same, the const also same, read only also same. Only difference is const is knowing at compile time and read only knowing at what time? Runtime. All right. Now with the above definition keeping in the mind, let's try to understand the const, read only, with what is an example, right? So here I'm saying that about const variable in C# first, and then all the example we'll see, and then read only, and then example, and then we'll differentiate. Okay, so const variables in what is it, C#. So while developing any application program using C#, you might be required to have a variable with value as a constant value. Example, if you're doing some mathematical calculation, so you need sometime value of pi. You know pi?
Yes, sir.
Pi value.
Yes, sir.
Pi value is what, 22/7, right? Or not?
Yes. Yes,
That
sir.
comes equal to 3.14 something, right? And pi value for any mathematical calculation changed, or it is a fixed 3.14 something?
Fixed.
It is fixed. So in your variable,
Yes.
you cannot declare as a variable which can be changed later on. You can declare a variable as what? Constant. So that once declared with value, that cannot be changed lifetime of the program. Right?
Yes, sir.
Got my point?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
All right. Correct?
Yes, sir.
Here, the keyword const is used to create a constant variable, right? The keyword const is used to create a constant variable. Just a second. All right. So what we were talking, const variable in C#, the keyword const is used to create a constant variable. That is a very much simple thing which we have to understand, right? It means
Yes, sir.
it will create a variable. It will create a variable whose value is never going to be changed. Going to be, what is it? Change. It means it will create a variable whose value is never going to be changed. All right. In simple words, we can say that the variable whose value cannot be changed, whose value cannot be changed, whose value cannot be, what is it, changed, whose cannot be changed or modified once after its declaration is known as a constant variable, known as a, what is it, a constant variable.
Constant variable.
This is the point number 1. And point number 2 is constants variables are variable are static by default. Remember it. Constant are static by default. Constants are, what is it? Static by
Default.
You observe here. This is the class program. This is the main method. Main method is static method. Okay.
Yes, sir.
The class program, I have one variable int num equals to 5. This is the variable inside the class declare of integer type with the value holding 5. In main method, I want to access the num variable. I'm writing console dot write line of num. When I'm writing num to access is not accessible. Num is not accessible because num is a variable inside the class and it is the instance member. It is what non-static member. If non-static member you are calling into static member to access, it is not accessible. Got my point?
Yes, sir.
So in order to make this member accessible into the main method, right, you have to create a static, then in the method, in the static method, we can access the static member, right?
जी सर.
Yes, sir.
But I'm going to create here const. Once I create a const variable, means this is a constant variable at the time of declaration given value, and this value throughout this entire program same we can access, we cannot change. And as soon as I made constant, then here see not coming any error because constant variables by default is static. If it is static, then static method can access static member, right or not? And it is what
Yes,
accessible. Clear the point?
Yes, sir.
जी सर.
This thing many people do not know. That's very, very important. If you use here a static keyword, then also correct. But what difference? It is a static variable accessing into static method, but this variable is a normal variable whose value can be changed later into the program. But I want to make a variable with a value which value cannot change into the program later on. So you have to create as what? Constant variable. What variable? Constant variable.
Constant.
The constant variable by default, what is that? Is static. So not required to mention static, you just mention what? Const, right? And static not
Yes,
required to
sir.
mention because the constant num cannot be
Yes,
marked
sir.
as static explicitly because implicitly marked as static. Clear?
जी सर.
Yes, sir.
Constant variable implicitly marked as what is it? Implicitly
Static.
marked as what is it? Static.
Static.
So you are not required to what is it? Mark static explicitly. Clear the point?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
You need to remove this, right? And it is a constant variable by default static, so it is accessible inside the static method. That's the proof. That's the proof, right or not?
जी
Yes,
सर.
sir.
This is very interesting and very important for the people to know in the C#. So the point number 2 also approved. The constant variables are static by default.
By default.
Point number 3, it is a mandatory. It is mandatory to initialize a constant variable, at the time of its a declaration. It's what is it? Declaration.
Declaration.
Constant variable, if you forget to initialize at the time of declaration, that will give the compile time error. Let's see the live. Const int num not initialized with a 5 value, just declaration, not possible. Not possible. See this. A const field requires a value to be provided, and what value provided that becomes the constant through the entire program. Letter of that line, it cannot be changed. That's what required what? Initializer at the time of declaration of the constant variable. All right.
Yes, sir.
Correct.
Yes, sir.
Shall I go for next point?
Yes, sir.
Moving at next point. Next, here initialize at 5. Now it is correct. Point number 4. The behavior of a constant variable. The behavior of, what is it? The behavior of constant variable. The behavior of a constant variable. The behavior of a constant variable is the same as the behavior of a static variable. Of a, what is it? A static
Okay.
variable. So what behavior of the static variable? Same behavior of constant variable. People also can put a one question that to you. Then why need to create constant variable? Static variable only we can use. But static variable containing value can be altered, can be modified later into the program. Cannot be the same throughout the entire program. So if you want to make a fixed value through the entire program, then you must create the word constant variable, right?
Yes,
So the behavior of a
Yes, sir.
constant
Yes, sir.
variable is the same as the behavior of a static variable, that is maintains only one copy in the life cycle of class and initialize immediately once the execution of the class is start. Once execution of the class start. That is object not required. For any static member of the class, do you require object to access, or directly with the class name only we can access? Do you require object to access, or directly with the class name we can access?
Yes.
direct class.
Directly with the class name we can access. The behavior of the
Yes.
constant variable is the same as the behavior of a static variable, that is maintains
Static.
one copy in the life cycle of a class and initialize immediately once the execution of the class start. Object not required.
Yes.
Not required.
Not required.
All right. That's what this num variable of this class in this main method accessing directly, not expecting the object of the class program. Suppose I remove this. Here I have one class name demo. In this I have one static variable in num equals to 5. This I want to access here. What is it? If I write demo.num. So to access out of the class, make it as a public. Then demo.num is accessible by using class name itself. If I create the object of demo class, demo obj1 equals to new demo,
Mm.
and then right here obj1 dot num is not accessible because num is not instance member. Num is what? Static member.
Static.
So it cannot be accessed by using their object, right?
Yes, sir.
Object not required. If I create not static, if I create const, and it is a by default static, right? So why I'm creating constant value? Because their value I want not to be changed later into the program. Throughout the lifetime of the program, value must be same 5 to be accessed. And it is a default is what? Static in nature. So you're writing obj1 dot num is not coming. See this, because num is what? Constant. A constant is a by default static. So static we can access, right, by the class name. What is the demo class name dot what is it? Num accessible, right?
Yes, sir.
So the constant variable most of the time same behavior as what is it? Is static variable, static behavior, right or not?
Yes, sir.
One of the difference
Yes,
is
sir.
their value cannot be changed later into the program. It is the same throughout the entire lifetime of the program. That is what this point. The behavior of a constant variable is the same as the behavior of a static variable. That is, maintains only one copy in the life cycle of a class and initialize immediately once the execution of the class starts. Object is not required. Right. Next one. Fifth one. The only difference between a static and constant variable, the only difference between a static and constant variable is that the static variable value can be modified, or we can say can be changed, right? Static variable value can be modified or changed later into the program, into the what is it? Program, right? But a constant variable, value can never be modified, can never be what is it? Modified or changed, right? After its what is it? Declaration. After its what is it? Declaration, right? So the only difference between a static and constant variable is that the static variable value can be modified or changed later into the program, but a constant variable value can never be modified or changed after its what is it? Declaration.
Yes, sir.
Clear difference between const and the what? Static variable.
जी सर.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Note point. We have discussed above, constant variable is known at what time? Compile time. Prove it. The proof that constant variable known at what time? Compile time. As we already discussed constant variables, constant what is it?
Variables.
Constant variables should be assigned a value at the time of it's a declaration. It's what is that? Declaration.
Yes, sir.
It's what is that? Declaration.
Difference.
And hence these values are known at what is it? Compile time known at what is it? Come on, compile time. Because if it is a required value at the time of declaration time, it means it's known at what time?
Compile
Known
time.
at what time?
Compile time.
Compile time. Known at what time?
Compile time.
Compile time.
Compile time. Right.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Cleared?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
That's all right. So, whenever we declare a constant variable or constant variable, the
Yes, sir.
C# compiler, whenever we declare a what is it? Constant variable, the C# compiler substitutes its values. Compiler substitutes its value directly into the IL code. That's what intermediate language code, right or not? Directly into the
Yes,
what?
sir.
IL code. Right. This thing please remember. While declaring constant variable, if value is not initialized, you will get the compile time error. If getting compile time error means it's known at what time? Compile time. It's known at what time? Compile time. Right. Now I'm having inside main method. Here writing const int or const double pi. We have not given a value. See compile time error coming. The variable pi is declared but never used. A const field requires a value to be provided. See, if you are building the application, see the error will come. Error coming. A const field requires a value to be provided. So this error coming when I'm running the program that time or before running only? Before running only. Before running, what is the available?
Oh, sorry, before running.
Right?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So we can have one example for const variable in C#. For const variable in what is it? C#. That example already
Yes,
we
sir.
have done it. That example already we have done it. One class we created demo. In that we are having the what is it? One constant variable, right? And you want to make access
Yes.
out of the class, and there's a by default static, right or not?
Yes, sir.
So coming over here, one class named demo. In this public const int one variable num equals to 5, right?
Yes, sir.
We need to do
Yes, sir.
assign a value to the const variable at the time of const variable declaration. Otherwise, you will give the what compile time error. That's what declare and value given that, right? Now class
Yes, sir.
program, there is a main method. In main method, how we can access to print the value of constant variable console dot right line of right. You are writing what is it? Demo class dot what is it? Num. Because constant variable becomes the static of the class demo that we can
Yes.
access using class name dot member, right?
Yes, sir.
Ji sir.
Right. We can also declare a constant variable within a method. We can also declare what is it? Constant variable, right?
Yes,
Inside
sir.
a what is it? Method.
Method.
Inside a what is it? Method.
Yes,
Now, right? Const keyword. I'm having the what is it? The value called double, right? Or the pi value equals to 3.14. And below writing console dot right line of what is it? Pi value. Here not required class name dot because it is a local variable of the method, right?
Ji sir.
Right. Here writing pi value equals to changing 5.1, right? 4. This will raise what is it? Come on, compile time error. See this left-hand side of an assignment must be a variable or must be a property or must be indexer, then only value can modified. But your variable is not a variable, your variable is not a property, not an indexer, it is a constant. It is what a constant. So what is it? Compile, right? Error. Compile, what is it? Error. Because you are trying to modify. So once after declaration, we cannot change the value of a constant variable, right? So compile error because constant variable, right? Constant variable value cannot be what is it? Changed.
Change.
Right. If you try to change, you're getting compile time
Error. So
this is just an example you can have over here. Over. This is completed about constant. Now last one. What is it? Read only variable in C#. Right or not?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Right. About this also we need to understand. So
Yes,
already definition we have discussed. According to Microsoft, it is similar to constant, but it is known at what is it? Runtime. It is known at what time?
runtime.
First point. The variable which is created by using the what keyword? Read only keyword is known as read only variable in C#, right? So the variable which is created by using what? Read only keyword is known as what? Read only variable in C#. In the same line, the read only variables value cannot be modified or changed once after its initialization, initialization after its what is it? Initialization.
Initialization.
Right. It is not mandatory. See the changes. It is not mandatory. It is not mandatory or required to initialize the read only variable. The read only what is it variable at the time of its what is it declaration like a constant in constant at the time of declaration only required to initialize value which never can be changed, but while declaring read only variable is not mandated to initialize. Clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
You can initialize the read only variable, the read only variables under a constructor, under a what is it constructor, under a constructor. But the most important point is that once after initialization, right, initialization, you cannot modify the value of the read only variable outside the constructor, outside the what is it
Constructor.
Remember, if it is going to initialize in the constructor, so it is the instance member which can be accessed by using what object of the class. It is not a static but constant by default. What is it? Static, right?
Yes, sir.
Point number 3, the behavior of read only variable. The behavior of read only, the behavior of a read only variable is similar to the behavior of non-static means instance member, right or not? Non-static variable, but non-static variable, right, can be initialized anywhere after this declaration and value can be changed or modified anywhere. But read only variable, once it is declared, initialization may be required to be done into constructor, and if initialization done, then later we cannot what is that change or modify it, right?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Right. So behavior of read only variable is similar to the behavior of what is it non-static variable. That is it maintains a separate copy of each object, separate copy of each object, because non-static number means instance number to be accessible by using the class object. To the what? Class object. So it maintains, if you create class object obj1, again get class of obj2. So how many copy created? 2 copy now. So that
Yes,
is, it maintains a separate copy of what is it? Each object.
Object.
The only difference difference, only difference between these two. Which these two? One is a read-only variable, one is what? Non-static variable. So the difference between these two is that between these two is that the value of the non-static variable can be modified
Modified.
Modified.
from outside the, what is that, constructor, outside the constructor,
Stack.
while the value of the read only variable, while the value of the read only variable cannot be modified or changed, what is that, changed, cannot be modified or, what is it,
Changed.
from outside the, what is it, constructor body, right or not?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Last point, a constant variable is a fixed value for the complete class, whereas a read only variable is fixed value, but is specific to one object of the class, one object of the what class. So if I create one class object obj1, so in the class we have read only variable, and that is assigned with some fixed value into constructor. So that fixed value 10. So 10 is a fixed only for that obj1, not for obj2. Got my point or not?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Clear the point?
Yes, sir.
Let's see the live example.
Yes, sir.
Let's see the live example. I'm coming to my code part. I have one class demo. I remove here. I write public read only int num equals to 5. Right, public read only int num equals to 5. It's not mandatory that initialize fixed value for read only at the time of declaration itself. I can have like this. And I can initialize with the fixed value into the constructor, into the what? Constructor.
Constructor.
Right. So then also
Yeah.
see first this one equals to 5. Right. And now coming to main method. In a main method, you have to create the object of the class. That is a demo. Obj demo1 equals to new demo. Right. Writing console dot write line of obj demo1 dot what is it? Dot num. We can access their fixed value 5, right?
Yes, sir.
And this read only variable num is not a static member, is a what? instance member. Is what member? Instance member.
Instance.
Because of we are accessing by using what? Object name. If you write class name demo dot you cannot access because it's not a static member, right or not?
जी sir.
Yes, sir.
Right. In the main method, I want to create local variable of read only. So read only, not possible. So read only variable only can be a member of the class, not as a local variable of any method. Got my point?
जी sir.
Got my point?
जी
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Right. Even they give forcefully read only variable name number. Right. See, read only and giving int here number equals to 100. See this error. Mouse over on this. The modifier read only is not valid for this item. Then where valid? Inside the class. But constant can be inside class, can be inside the what? Local method. Can inside be what? Any function, right or not?
Yes, sir.
जी sir.
Yes, sir.
All right. You try to modify the value of obj demo1 dot num obj demo dot num equals to 10. You see the error. Mouse over. A read only field cannot be assigned to except in a constructor or init only setter of the type in which the field is defined of a variable initializer. So only inside constructor or into what? Nothing but property setter, right or not? Init setter.
Yes,
जी
sir.
sir.
So hope these all point remember for interview purpose.
जी sir.
Yes, sir.
So now simply read only defined and it is an instance member, not a static member. Const is a static member. And see, right? For other object, different copy will create, right or not?
Yes, sir.
This is the
Yes, sir.
one example. Now another example using constructor. Example 2. Example 2. Got my point?
Yes, sir.
So we can see in this code, we declare a read-only variable that is public read-only int num equals to 5. And within the program class main method, we access the read-only variable by using the object of our class. This is because read-only variables are non-static by default, and as non-static requires an object to be created instead of class name to be accessed, right or not?
जी sir.
Yes, sir.
So in this example, read-only variable is assigned with a value at the time of its declaration, and it is accessed using the instance of the class rather than using the class name as read-only variable are non-static in the nature. Non-static member always access using the class object. Suppose you may have another instance of the class which might have the read-only member variable assigned to a different value based on the some condition, right? Are you getting my point?
जी sir.
Answer is, can we do
Yes,
it?
sir.
Yes, because read-only variables are known at what time? Runtime.
Right.
Runtime.
Read-only variable is known at runtime. How to prove? How to prove? For proof, I'm going to show you read-only variable initialization through the constructor. Here I remove this. Just declare. Here I have constructor. That is a default constructor. Parameterless constructor, public demo. And through this constructor, right? Num initialize with what? 5. Right?
जी sir.
Right. Now I have a parameterized constructor, public demo. In public demo, in this we have int n, right? And here writing num equals to n, right or not?
जी sir.
Yes, sir.
All right. Done this. Done this. So what passing n value that are becoming assigned to what? Num.
Num.
Right. Now what we are going to do? Here, suppose if I have a method, public wired display in this num value, I'm initializing with other value, suppose 200. So only we can initialize read only member at the time of declaration or in its constructor, but not into out of consider any of the method. See this. A read-only field cannot be assigned to except constructor or init-only setter of the type in which the field is defined or a variable initializer. Got my point?
जी सर
Here only we can write it to print it, right or not?
जी सर
Yes, sir.
Clear?
जी
Yes, sir.
Now, demo, obj demo, new demo. Here what invoking default constructor. Using default constructor, this read-only variable initialized with what value?
number 5
5, right or not?
जी सर
So if I print obj demo one dot num, what print?
5
5 print,
Right.
right or not?
जी सर
Yes, sir.
Num value, what print? 5 print. Below writing demo, obj demo 1, demo 2 equals to new demo, and using parameterized constructor passing 100 or passing 150. So 150 passed to what? This constructor parameter. This assigned to what? Num. So using this, now for obj demo 2, num will be set value at 150. 150 is read only. After assign, only we can read, we cannot change or modify, right or not?
जी
Yes,
सर
sir.
So here writing, what is it? Here writing, what is it? Sorry. Console dot right line of num value print obj demo 2 dot, what is it? Num. What print?
Num.
150 print. What printer? 150 print.
150
And here try to change obj demo 1 dot num equals to, changing 200. It won't change. It will give the word compile time error, right? You cannot change. You cannot change the
Change.
value of the value of what is that? Read only
read only
Read on.
variable. Once it is initialized, read only variable. Once it's, what is it?
initialize
Initialize in their constructor. In their, what is it?
constructor
Construct, right? So this give compile time error. Same way, obj 2 dot obj demo 2 dot num equals to any value, not possible, right or not?
जी सर
So this one will give error. Right? You cannot change the value of read only variable once it is initialized in their, what is that? Constructor. Clear the point?
Sir.
Clear the point? Let's run this. So 5, 150, but value is not able to change.
जी
So understood this example also for read only variable.
जी सर
And understood difference between the read only
Yes,
variable
sir.
and the
Yes.
constant variable,
Yes, sir.
right? And understood difference between the constant and read only, constant and static, read only and non-static.
जी सर
You can answer easily if anybody asks to you, right?
जी सर
So this is all about today's session, in which this topic we have finished. I will share this session also. You can go through that and you can complete about this chapter, right? In tomorrow class, I will discuss some other thing like local function, right? Anonymous method and the extension method. The other another topics are available which people are asking, and it is getting used into the development also.
जी सर
Then after that, I'll discuss.
Yes, sir.
After that, I'll discuss inheritance. Then I'll discuss sealed class. Then I'll discuss abstract class, abstract method. Then I'm going forward another few topics.
Okay.
Object-oriented programming. After that, we'll discuss about arrays, collections, exception handling, file handling, like this, and band of that. Okay,
जी सर
fine.
जी सर
Okay, all right. Thank you.
थैंक यू सर
Thank you, sir.